The room went quiet when my brother-in-law lifted his glass and called me dead weight. 20 guests sat under white flowers and warm lights, pretending not to hear while he joked that my wife had married beneath her. My wife did not stop him. She stared at her wine and let the insult sit there like part of the table setting. Her parents watched in silence. A billionaire investor sat 3 seats away, listening. I didn't argue. I didn't leave. I let him keep talking until he mentioned the development deal that was supposed to make him untouchable. Then I set down my fork and looked at him. My wife still didn't look at me. The table stretched between us and the front of the room like a stage. The anniversary dinner had been arranged carefully. White roses down the center. Crystal glasses. Polished silverware. Every detail chosen so the night would look perfect in photographs. Perfection was important to my wife's family. Reality was not. Her brother stood at the head of the table with the relaxed confidence of someone who had never been told no in his life. He was dressed like a magazine cover version of success. Expensive suit. Loud watch. Easy smile. Everyone in the room treated him like gravity. People leaned toward him when he spoke. They laughed a little too quickly. They nodded before he finished sentences. I had watched it happen for 6 years. The golden child effect. My wife's parents believed he was brilliant. Visionary. Destined for something big. If he lost money, it was because the market didn't understand him. If a deal collapsed, it was because the partners lacked ambition. Failure never stuck to him. It slid off and landed on someone else. Usually me. I worked as an aerospace engineer outside Seattle. My job involved satellite telemetry and orbital systems. Precision work. Quiet work. The kind of work where mistakes cost millions. But to my wife's family, it was invisible work. There was nothing glamorous about it. No flashy cars. No investment deals. No social media photos. Just numbers, screens, and responsibility. My wife once described my job to her friends as government math. That sentence stayed with me longer than it should have. At the dinner table, her brother continued talking. He described a massive real estate development that was supposedly about to reshape part of the city. Luxury towers. Retail space. Technology offices. The kind of project people liked to brag about at charity events. He used words like leverage. Momentum. Capital structure. Most of the guests didn't understand any of it. But they applauded anyway. My wife clapped the loudest. She had always loved ambition. Or at least the appearance of it. Across the table, her father sat stiffly in his chair. He looked older than I remembered. Her mother smiled too much, the way people do when they are trying to ignore something uncomfortable. I had noticed small cracks in the story weeks earlier. Numbers that didn't line up. Property filings that didn't match development timelines. Investment structures that looked improvised. I worked with systems all day. When systems break, patterns appear. Those patterns had started pointing towards something ugly. Her brother kept speaking. And this project, he said loudly, is only the beginning. Once the investors see the early returns, the next round of funding will be even bigger. The billionaire investor near the center of the table listened quietly. He didn't clap. He didn't smile. He watched. My wife leaned toward her brother. You deserve this, she said. Her voice carried across the table. You worked harder than anyone. I watched her say it. That sentence told me something important. She believed the story. Or she needed to believe it. Because if she didn't, the entire structure of her family collapsed. Her brother raised his glass again. And of course, he added casually, none of this would have been possible without the support of family. People nodded. Family support. That phrase meant something different in that house. It meant silence. It meant loyalty without questions. It meant protecting the golden child at any cost. Then his eyes shifted toward me again. The smile returned. And even Samuel here played a part, he said. Every family needs someone reliable. A few polite laughs. Reliable. That word again. I had heard it for years. Reliable meant predictable. Predictable meant harmless. Harmless meant someone you could ignore. My wife still didn't look up. I reached for my water glass. Calm. Controlled. Numbers in my head were aligning now. Data points forming a conclusion. Her brother continued describing the financing structure. And that was when he said something he shouldn't have. One detail. One number. One claim about a pension investment fund. The moment the words left his mouth, the room stopped being a dinner party. It became a crime scene. And I realized something very clearly. He had no idea what he had just admitted in front of me. Looking back now, that dinner did not surprise me as much as it should have. It only revealed something I had been living with for years. I had always been the quiet one in that family. The useful one. The person everyone relied on when something needed to be done, but never the person anyone celebrated. My brother had always been different. From the outside, he looked like the success story. The one our parents introduced with pride. He spoke loudly. He dressed sharply. He moved through rooms as if he owned them. People believed confidence meant competence. I used to believe it too. When I started the company, I was 24 and working out of a rented office with peeling paint and a broken heater. It was not glamorous. It was spreadsheets, late nights, and a lot of uncertainty. For the first 2 years, my brother barely showed interest. But my parents did. They visited the office. They brought food sometimes. My mother used to say she was proud of me. At least in the beginning. Things started changing when the company finally became stable. We landed our first major contract. Nothing massive, but enough to make the business sustainable. For the first time, I was not worrying about payroll every month. That was when my brother suddenly became involved. He began showing up to meetings. At first he presented himself as someone who just wanted to help. He said he understood investors better than I did. He said he could open doors. My parents supported the idea. They told me it would be good for the family if we built something together. I remember sitting at the kitchen table one evening while my father spoke slowly, carefully choosing his words. He said my brother simply had stronger business instincts. He said I was good with operations but not with people. The way he explained it sounded reasonable. So I listened. My brother began attending investor calls. He introduced himself as a strategic advisor. I noticed that he spoke about the company as if it already belonged to him. Whenever I corrected him, the room would become awkward. After a while, I stopped correcting him. My parents encouraged that silence. They told me it was important not to embarrass family. One moment still stands out clearly in my memory. It was during a small celebration dinner after we closed another contract. My brother raised his glass and started telling the story of how the company had come together. Except the story he told was not real. He spoke about how he had guided the strategy from the beginning. How he had shaped the vision. People nodded. They congratulated him. I remember looking at my parents. Neither of them corrected him. They simply smiled. That was the first time I understood something painful. The truth mattered less than the version of events that made my brother look impressive. After that night, the pattern repeated again and again. Whenever the company achieved something, my brother positioned himself closer to the spotlight. Whenever something went wrong, my parents quietly reminded me that I had started the business and therefore the responsibility belonged to me. I told myself it was temporary. I believed eventually the work would speak for itself. But families have their own gravity. And slowly, without any official announcement, the narrative changed. My brother was the visionary. I was the quiet worker behind the scenes. At first, I tried to fight it. Then I tried to explain it. Eventually, I stopped doing both. By the time that Thanksgiving dinner arrived, the roles were already fixed. My brother had become the star of the family story. And I had become the extra character nobody expected to matter. What none of them realized that night was that silence does not always mean surrender. Sometimes silence is simply someone waiting for the moment when the truth finally has room to speak. The moment that finally changed everything did not happen at Thanksgiving. It happened 3 weeks earlier. My brother had asked me to come to my parents' house for what he called a small business conversation. That phrase had become common in our family. It usually meant a decision had already been made and I was being informed after the fact. When I arrived, my parents were already seated at the dining table. My brother stood near the window, talking on his phone. When he saw me walk in, he ended the call quickly. The atmosphere felt strange. Not hostile. Just rehearsed. My father cleared his throat and gestured toward the empty chair across from him. "Sit down," he said. On the table was a folder. It looked official. Legal paper, printed neatly. My brother slid the folder toward me with a relaxed smile. "We're just cleaning up the company structure," he said. I opened the folder slowly. Inside were documents transferring majority ownership of the company to him. For a moment I thought I was misunderstanding what I was reading. But the language was very clear. My shares. My authority. My company. All of it would move to him. In exchange, I would receive a payout of $100,000. I remember staring at the number. It was almost funny. I had spent 5 years building the company. 5 years of 14-hour days, sleepless nights, and constant financial pressure. And they were offering me the price of a used car collection. I looked up. My mother avoided my eyes. My father spoke next. "You should think of this as a fair transition," he said carefully. "Your brother has stronger leadership instincts. Investors respond to him." My brother leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. "This just makes everything cleaner," he added. "You'll still be involved. Just not running things." I felt a quiet pressure building in my chest. Not anger. Something colder. I asked one simple question. "Why?" My brother answered first. "Because the company needs someone who can take it to the next level." My father nodded slightly. My mother finally spoke. "You're talented," she said softly. "But your brother understands business better." That sentence landed harder than anything else. Not because it was loud. Because it was calm. Like a fact everyone had already accepted. My brother tapped the papers. "Just sign," he said. "It's easier for everyone." For a long moment I did nothing. I studied the documents again. That was when I noticed something. A detail my brother clearly expected me to overlook. The legal structure listed in the documents did not match the company registration. The wording assumed my brother already had authority to restructure ownership. But he did not. I knew that because I had personally filed the company formation papers years earlier. Only one person legally held control. Me. They had prepared documents based on an assumption. That I would not question them. That I would simply give in. My brother mistook silence for weakness. So did my parents. I closed the folder slowly. "I'll review it," I said. My brother's smile tightened slightly. "There's nothing to review." "I'll review it anyway," I replied. My father frowned. "This shouldn't be complicated." But I stood up. "I'll get back to you." As I walked toward the door, my brother called after me. "Don't drag this out," he said. "You built something decent. Now let someone bigger run it." I did not respond. But that was the moment something inside me shifted. For years I had tried to keep peace. Tried to earn approval. Tried to explain my value to people who had already decided I had none. Walking out of that house, I realized something simple. I did not need their permission anymore. And when Thanksgiving dinner arrived weeks later, I was not walking into that room to defend myself. I was walking in already knowing exactly how the story would end. When my brother made his announcement at Thanksgiving dinner, I already knew what was coming. He stood near the end of the table, smiling in that confident way that always impressed people who did not know him well. He spoke loudly so everyone could hear. He explained that the family company was moving into a new phase. That leadership needed to evolve. That he had officially taken control of the business. Then he added something that made the room go even quieter. He said I would no longer be involved. The words hung in the air. Several relatives looked at me. No one interrupted him. My parents sat there silently. My mother looked down at her plate. My father kept his hands folded. My brother finished speaking as if he had just delivered good news. He even lifted his glass slightly. For the future, he said. The strange part was how calm I felt. I had imagined this moment many times after that meeting at my parents' house. I had imagined shouting. I had imagined arguments. But when the moment actually arrived, none of that happened. Instead, I simply reached into my bag. I placed a small stack of documents on the table. The movement was quiet, but it caught everyone's attention. My brother stopped smiling. "What's that?" he asked. I opened the top page and slid it toward him. "These are the original incorporation documents," I said. My voice sounded steady. "The company was registered 5 years ago. The founding shareholder is listed clearly." My brother glanced at the page. His expression shifted slightly. But he tried to recover quickly. "That doesn't matter," he said. "We already restructured everything." I turned another page. "These are the state filings confirming no ownership transfer has ever been approved." The room became very still. Someone at the far end of the table cleared their throat. My brother picked up the papers and flipped through them faster. "That's outdated," he said. "It's current," I replied. Then I placed the final document on top of the stack. The company bank accounts also list the authorized signatory. My brother stopped turning pages. Because he already knew what the document said. I watched the confidence drain slowly from his face. My father leaned forward. "What is she talking about?" he asked. I answered quietly. "I never signed the transfer." The silence after that sentence felt heavy. My brother looked at my parents. Then back at me. "You're being dramatic," he said. "We had an agreement." "No," I said. "We had a conversation." My mother finally spoke. "But the family already told people." I shook my head gently. "You told them a story." Another long silence settled over the table. My brother stood up quickly. "This is ridiculous," he said. "You're embarrassing everyone." I did not argue. I simply gathered the documents again. "Legally," I said, "nothing has changed." My father looked stunned. "So the company still belongs to me?" No one spoke after that. Not immediately. My brother walked out of the dining room first. My parents remained seated, processing what had just happened. I stood up quietly. There was no reason to stay. I picked up my coat and walked toward the door. No one stopped me. Outside, the air felt cold and clear. For years I had carried the weight of trying to belong somewhere that only valued appearances. But walking away that night felt different. Not dramatic. Just final. In the weeks that followed, lawyers became involved. Contracts were reviewed. Ownership records were confirmed. Eventually the situation resolved itself through the same systems that protect every other business. Documents. Law. Reality. The company remained where it had always been. With me. My brother stopped calling. My parents stopped asking questions. And strangely, life became quieter. Sometimes people expect revenge stories to end with shouting or victory speeches. Mine did not. It ended with distance. With space. With the quiet understanding that truth does not need to be loud. It only needs to exist. And once it does, everything else eventually rearranges itself around it.